also rewarded bravery, for this was the glue that kept a warlike society together. Armour and weapons were commonly given, but most valued were objects of precious metals or jewels, perhaps garnered as spoils of war or during raids upon some Christian settlement or church. Gifts were presented with great ceremonial, while companions applauded and ancient tales were retold. Lavish rewards I received for my part in battle, beaten gold and other things. There was singing at the banquet table. An old teller of stories recalled the early days. A battle-scarred warrior bowed with age would remember the deeds of his youth. Pagan, bloodthirsty and warlike though it was, quick to seek revenge for slight or wrong. "It is better to avenge dear ones than give way to mourning," says one of Beowulf's followers. Always ready to fight for honour or die in the attempt. This society placed measurable value upon its individual members, since all, even the meanest, formed part of one social fabric. They had developed the custom of vergil that related human worth and social status, so that loss of life, even injury, had to be recompensed by the perpetrator in money or kind.
Here at Westow, the archaeologists have found out that the people who lived here, these early Anglo-Saxons, were a very interesting mix of people. There were Angles, Saxons, Frisians, Franks, a whole mixture of people who may be joined together in the course of their travelling to get here. They came up the rivers in their boats and they settled here in one of these very early pioneering settlements next to a river. We know there were plenty of other settlements up this river, not far from this one, spread all along the River Lark here in Suffolk. When they got here, they did some things exactly the same as they'd done in their homelands, like we found pottery and jewellery which matches perfectly, and other things that were rather different, because over here in England, the structures that they built, the houses and halls that we hear about in Beowulf, they tend to be separate units, where the archaeologists found out that back in their homelands in Northern Europe, quite often they lived in these long houses where the units were joined together. So there are some subtle differences between the way that they used to live on the continent and the new way that they lived over here.
In Anglo-Saxon England, the king's residence, surrounded by lesser dwellings, would stand within an earth-ditched, timber-palisaded enclosure that protected against human and animal attack. In its mead halls, a warrior brotherhood would have eaten and drank to the excess expected of such great fighters, whose deeds of valour, not only against man, animal, or mythological demon, but at the table, gave them status. In one instance, the poem refers to a particular warrior as wrecker of mead benches. Great halls were common to both Anglo-Saxons and their Nordic forebears, playing a major role in the life of the community. Beowulf fought the monster Grendel in such a hall, and in a similar structure dedicated to conviviality, a still pagan Offa oversaw treacherous murder. In AD 792, Ethelbert, an East Saxon and Christian king, arrived at Offa's hall near Hereford, seeking the hand of his daughter in marriage, only to be killed, and according to legend, having his severed head used by Offa's men as a gruesome football. Buried at nearby Marden, it was claimed a shaft of sunlight suddenly illuminating the grave, together with a spring of water gushing from the ground, so frightened Offa, he not only converted to Christianity, but ordered the body be interred at Hereford in a timber church where now stands its cathedral. Ethelbert's murder reveals that as late as the 8th century, Christianity's spread was not without problem. But today's great church dedicated to the saint proves paganism's defeat was inevitable. Close by Hereford, beyond Offa's Dyke, lay a hostile western Britain, now Wales, whose hills, lakes and forests were not dissimilar to some northern homelands, and might thus have prolonged or even inspired beliefs that monstrous creatures existed. Certainly many wild animals mentioned in Beowulf were considered either portents of or associated with death. Craving for carrion, the dark raven shall have its say, and tell the eagle how it fared at the feast when, competing with the wolf, it laid bare the bones of corpses. Although the existence of the Beowulf manuscript had been noted in the 16th century, it was an Icelandic scholar, Thorkelin, who in 1787 first translated Beowulf's poem, perhaps not very accurately, from an original manuscript already badly damaged by a library fire of 1753. The hero's name is interesting. J.R.R. Tolkien, whose own 1936 translation spurred great interest in Anglo-Saxon literature, interpreted Beowulf as one who sought honey. Since wolf could mean either the animal itself or one who hunted, and since bears loved honey, Tolkien suggested this was illusion and wordplay. All would have understood as meaning bear hunter, that is, hunter of bears. However interpreted, Beowulf's name must have indicated a man of great physical power whose achievements were worthy of poetic record.
He is essentially an ursine superhero. He has these bear-like tendencies, as brought out in Tolkien, for example, in the character Beorn in The Hobbit. And many parallels in Old Norse as well. Old Norse saga, his parallels in Old Norse saga, one of them actually turns into a bear within the battle and helps win the day that way. And this is a characteristic of Northern literature, that sometimes extremes of characteristic could be explained by supposing that at some stage in the family's history there'd been some kind of cross-fertilisation. And the Old Norse puts it quite clearly when it says that the hero's grandmother was a she-bear.
The title bear seems often to have been associated with renowned warriors. In these same dark ages, now early medieval, the legendary King Arthur is said to have derived his name from the Latin artos for that animal. Interestingly, this British legend has also a hero fighting mythical beings. The forest swarmed with giants until Arthur, the good king, vanquished them all with his crossed sword. The last Roman legionary had only just departed when Arthur, a possible 5th century Romano-British war leader, is said to have defeated the Anglo-Saxons in a series of battles that gained 50 years of peace for Western Britain. There are surprising similarities between